My wife left behind a note that simply said, "Don't try to find me. I need freedom." So I honored her words. I filed for divorce, froze all shared accounts, and took off on a vacation. Just 3 days later, she was standing in front of my lawyer's office, eyes swollen, crying. I-38 mail found the note placed quietly on the smooth granite countertop in our kitchen, weighted down with a key. Not the key for the front door, but the one she always used for the back entrance. That small choice said everything. The message was just 4 simple lines, written in her familiar neat, looped cursive, the handwriting that always seemed too delicate for her fiery personality. "I need to be alone for a while. This isn't working anymore. I crave freedom. Don't look for me." There was no apology. No, "I love you." Just a cold, precise exit. For a long moment I couldn't move. I just stood there, surrounded by stillness, with the lingering smell of the coffee she'd made that morning still floating in the air. I looked around at the life we had crafted together. The kitchen's custom tile backsplash, which we had argued over for weeks, now felt like set dressing from a play that had abruptly ended. That expensive Scandinavian reading chair she'd insisted on buying, the one that mostly held her coats rather than books, sat in the corner like a forgotten prop. There was no screaming.
No dramatic exit.
Only that bitter stone of grief settling in my gut, cold and quiet, accompanied by a strange sense of calm I didn't expect. Lauren had always been the one to make grand, rash decisions. She was the type who thrived on theatrics and passionate declarations. In this, her final performance, she forgot one important thing. While she crafted scenes, I designed plans. I lifted my phone from the countertop, my hands steady. My first call wasn't to her family, or her best friend, or anyone in our social circle. It was to Walter Chun, a divorce attorney with a vicious reputation and a gleaming 5-star rating. He specialized in high-stakes asset division, and I scheduled an appointment for the coming Monday without hesitation. Next, I called the bank, told them my debit card had been compromised, a small, harmless lie, and they immediately froze our shared checking and savings accounts until I could visit in person. She had no clue I had a personal account stashed away, my quiet what-if fund. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Afterward, I walked into the closet. Her side was half empty. She'd taken all her favorite outfits, the pricey dresses, but left behind the one she wore on our first date. The framed photos on her nightstand were still there. Most telling of all, she had carelessly left her muddy Adidas running shoes right in the middle of the new rug I had just bought. A final thoughtless gesture. I had already been approved for 2 weeks of vacation. For months I'd been planning a solo hiking trip, something Lauren had mocked as boring and had refused to join me on. I packed my gear, laced up my hiking boots, and gently placed her note in the top drawer of my desk. One last look around the house confirmed what I needed to know. This was no longer emptiness. It was a blank page. I locked the front door and left. I didn't chase after her. She wanted freedom. I was handing it to her, complete with lawyers and legal documentation. The air in the mountains was crisp and clean. For 3 straight days, I hiked relentlessly, muscles burning, lungs working overtime. I rarely checked my phone, but when I did, I saw the notifications, messages from her friends, then a flood of texts from Lauren herself. The tone changed rapidly, from condescending, "Are you seriously ignoring me?" to anxious, "Why isn't my card working?" I read them all, felt a flicker of something. Not guilt, just a hollow sort of validation, then tucked my phone away. Monday morning, I drove back into the city. I stopped at a truck stop, took a hot shower, put on the suit I had packed, and headed to Walter Chen's office. A sleek, discreet building in a quiet corner of town. As I pulled up, I saw her, Lauren. She was sitting on a low brick wall, looking completely wrecked. She wore the same clothes she had worn in her Instagram post from 2 days ago. The one with a cocktail glass and the caption, "Finally free." Only now she looked anything but. Her hair was a mess. Her makeup was smudged. Her eyes red and puffy from crying. She jumped to her feet when she saw me. "Nathan," she called out, her voice trembling. I got out of the car without saying a word. "What's going on?" she snapped, her voice cracking. My card got declined at a hotel. It was embarrassing. Then the bank told me you reported a security breach. What the hell is that? I adjusted my tie slowly. It's exactly that, Lauren. Our financial security was breached. Her tear-streaked face hardened. That's not funny. That's our money. I needed that money. I had plans. I met her gaze without flinching. I'm sure you did. As I walked toward the office, she rushed to catch up, her tone turning desperate. Look, maybe I should have talked to you first, she pleaded, gripping my arm. I looked down at her hand until she let go. I just needed space, Nathan. A break. That's all this was. And now I come back to this? A divorce lawyer. That was the moment everything became crystal clear. She never truly left me. She had just put me on pause. She expected me to wait patiently until she felt like resuming her life. The sheer audacity was breathtaking. You left a note, I said quietly. It said not to look for you. It didn't say, I'll be back on Monday. Please keep the bank accounts warm. You asked for freedom. I'm simply making it official. Her eyes widened. You can't just divorce me, she sobbed. We need to talk. Go to therapy. You can't blow up our life like this. I stared at her, my voice calm. You pulled the pin, Lauren. I'm just cleaning up the debris. I opened the office door. Her voice, cracking with pain, was the last thing I heard before the glass shut behind me. A week passed in blessed silence, until I got a voicemail from an unknown number. It was a man. Nathan, this is Kyle. Look, I think we got off on the wrong foot. Lauren's upset. Let's have a man-to-man chat. Figure this out. I knew that name. Kyle was a senior manager in her department, the one she laughed with a bit too intimately at the Christmas party. The one I'd seen pop up in late-night texts I pretended not to notice. I didn't respond. I just forwarded the message to Walter, labeled the audio, for the file. The very next evening, I saw them through the peephole. Lauren standing slightly behind Kyle, who had his hand on her lower back, radiating smug confidence. He rang the doorbell with an entitled jab. I opened the door a few inches, chain still latched. Yes, Nathan, he said with a smile that dripped arrogance. Let's talk. I kept my expression neutral. Talk to my lawyer. You're making this hard, he said, leaning in. Lauren's willing to be reasonable. She's ready to come home, let you calm down, and sort this out like adults. I looked at Lauren. There's no we. You made your choice. Her voice was barely audible. Nathan, please. This was all a misunderstanding. I just need to get my things. Your belongings will be handled through legal channels, I replied coldly. Besides, the key you left wouldn't have worked anyway. She looked confused. What do you mean? The locks were changed the morning I left, I said. You vacated the property. You have no legal right to be here. Kyle's smirk twisted into a scowl. Don't be a jerk. This is her home. Tell her lawyer to talk to mine, I said, starting to close the door. He tried to push it. You'll regret this, he threatened. I paused, met his gaze. Is that a threat, Kyle? His eyes flickered. It's advice. I'll add it to the file, I said, and closed the door on them. That night, the house felt different. Not just empty, but still, heavy, as though it was holding its breath, just like I was. That cold, familiar stone settled in my stomach again, and I knew I wouldn't sleep without answers. I sat down at the old shared desktop in the office, the one we barely used anymore since everything had moved to laptops and phones. But I had a hunch. I hadn't let myself be suspicious before, or maybe I just chose not to look. But tonight I gave in. She hadn't even cleared her browser history. With just a few clicks, the whole story unfolded: hotel reservations, fine dining receipts, late-night messaging threads. There, in a private Instagram chat with Kyle, was 6 months' worth of planning. Flirty comments, inside jokes, jabs at my predictability, laughs at the life she claimed was too mundane to bear. The final message hit like a brick, sent the very morning she left me. Note is on the counter. Freedom awaits. See you at the hotel in an hour. K3. I didn't feel rage, not immediately, just a focused, surgical clarity. I took screenshots of everything, labeled a flash drive leverage, and sent a copy straight to Walter. The grief still lingered, but it had evolved. Now it had teeth. Now it was fuel. The next month became a symphony of cold, calculated efficiency. I didn't need to outmaneuver anyone. I just needed to be honest, precise, and thorough. The house, for instance, had been rented with an option to buy. I'd been quietly saving for that down payment long before Lauren's exit. When the lease renewal notice arrived, I called the landlord and laid out the facts. Lauren has permanently vacated as of this date, I said, my voice calm. Here's a photo of the note she left. The landlord, a practical man who clearly hated drama, immediately drew up a new lease in my name alone. No fuss, no conflict, just logic. 1 week later, Lauren called me screaming. He said I'm not on the lease anymore. He said if I try to come in, he'll call the cops. You can't do that, Nathan. I let her finish. Then, calm as ever, I replied, you abandoned the lease, Lauren. My lawyer has the documents to prove it. Click. And then came the social fallout. I never said a word against her to anyone. I didn't need to. The truth spoke louder than I ever could. Pictures of her and Kyle began surfacing online, dinner dates, weekend getaways, thinly veiled captions about new beginnings, and living authentically. It all seemed so forced. Their smiles too wide, their happiness too loud. People took notice. Kelly, a mutual friend, called me one evening, her voice full of awkward sympathy. Everyone at the office is talking, she whispered. It's a lot. People are taking sides. And Kyle, he was married too, you know? That was news. Apparently, his own divorce was turning into a disaster, messier, more public and more expensive than ours. The so-called power couple had become office scandal material. Promotions they'd both been gunning for? Gone. Their reputations? Shredded. And suddenly, their little paradise didn't look so glamorous anymore. Then came the most pathetic twist of all. A late-night voicemail from Lauren, tearful, rambling, nostalgic. She talked about a beach trip we took 5 years ago, about how happy we'd been. Her words were drenched in regret, but there was a tangible desperation beneath it all. I know things are weird right now, she whispered, but I really need my half of the $2,850 security deposit from the landlord. Can you just sell it to me? It was so outrageous, so brazenly shameless. I had to laugh. I didn't respond. Instead, her new lawyer, a discounted substitute for the first, clearly less experienced, emailed Walter, demanding immediate release of personal funds. Walter's reply was brutally elegant. One paragraph, firm and unflinching. He reiterated that all marital assets were frozen pending final judgment, that all future communication must go through legal channels. And as a final blow, he attached a single, password-protected PDF titled Kyle. Inside were the first 10 pages of Lauren's DMs. The requests for money? They vanished immediately after that. 6 months after I found that handwritten note on the kitchen counter, it was finally over. The divorce was finalized last week. No courtroom drama.
No explosive confrontations.
Just quiet, methodical legal proceedings carried out by lawyers who knew exactly what they were doing. Walter Chun, ruthless and precise, was worth every cent. He presented an airtight case, backed by Lauren's own words, her abandonment of the marital home, the screenshots, Kyle's attempted intimidation, and every other misstep she had made. The judge didn't need convincing. The state we live in allows fault-based asset division when one spouse engages in financial dissipation or abandonment. Lauren fit both criteria. She walked away with only what she personally owned: her clothes, the car her parents had bought her, and a small court-mandated slice of our joint savings. That's it. As for the house, the final victory came quietly. Because I had signed the lease renewal solo, and because Lauren had vacated legally, the option to purchase now belonged to me and me alone. My carefully built personal savings, which had remained untouched throughout the legal storm, was waiting for that exact moment. I sat across from the landlord, now the seller, and signed the papers. The house, our house, was mine now, not because of anything I had before Lauren, but because of what I did after she left. Their downfall played out exactly as expected. According to Kelly, they were still together, living in a small 2-bedroom apartment in a less-than-ideal neighborhood. Their finances were in shambles. Kyle's divorce had gutted him financially, and Lauren's freedom had come at a price far higher than she'd bargained for. They'd been passed over for promotions. Their workplace was reportedly toxic, and their online show of bliss had gone silent. No more bragging posts, no more sunset selfies. The illusion had finally cracked. Then, one Tuesday night, I got a notification that surprised me. A message from Spotify. Your password has been changed. I hadn't changed it. That's when I realized Lauren had still been using our family account. Just one tiny thread still tying us together. One I hadn't noticed. I logged in, removed her profile, and reset the password. It felt like locking a door I didn't know was still open. Quiet, final closure. And you know what? I don't hate her. I don't think about her much anymore, if at all. Hate is loud. It burns. What I feel now is quiet. Cool. It's the calm that comes after the storm has passed. This house doesn't feel like a museum of lost love anymore. Feels like mine. I painted the kitchen a deep, soothing blue. Her designer chair is gone, replaced by a wall of books I've been wanting to read for years. And sometimes, when the world is silent and the night is long, I remember the man I was when I read that 4-sentence note. I let myself feel his pain, just for a moment. Then I thank him, because that pain didn't break me. It built me. Lauren and Kyle will probably blame me for the rest of their lives. They'll spin their stories, paint themselves as victims, and me as the villain who refused to beg or chase. But the truth is, I didn't wreak revenge. I just stood aside and let consequences do their work. I didn't slam the door, no. I held it open long enough for karma to walk through and finish the job. If you love this story of quiet strength and cold justice, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and let me know in the comments. What would you have done if you found that note?